All right, here we go. So thanks for joining me tonight. My name is Eileen Head. I'm super excited to be on this webinar and here with you today. I'm also creator of the Get Love program. That's an online relationship program where you can transform to become the best version of yourself and get the love and life you desire through personality pattern and awareness. I'm going to be going through this webinar quite quickly, and there's a lot of technology, so please be patient. So now I'm going to share my screen with you. Let me do this, and there you go. All right, can you let me know if you can see the screen on the left, or if you can see the screen? There's a chat box that you can chat with me on the side. All right. So what I'm going to ask you is to turn off any distractions, be fully present. If you stay on to the end of the webinar, because you're online, you will receive some gifts from me. For the purpose of this webinar, we're going to go through traditional terminology for relationships, male, husband, female, wife, even though there is gay, lesbian, and gender reversal personality rules. As I mentioned, I'm going to be giving you some gifts at the end if you stay on to the end of the webinar. There we go. Okay, I think we have it now. So, let me go back to here and there we go. So this is the first slide. I talked about the housekeeping. I talked about the gifts. I'm going to review this. Many women are stuck in indecision for years and years, and I was one of them. Indecision will keep you stuck. And while you're stuck, you're not moving forward. You're not utilizing solutions that could re-engage your partner and rejuvenate the relationship. You are standing still and burning time for both of yourself and your partner. The stress could be affecting your health and your well-being of your children if you have them. The situation may be affecting your self-esteem, your self-worth, and your self-value. In this webinar, my goal is to help you bring clarity to the options of 3 possibilities. There may be a way to reconnect and re-engage your partner and rejuvenate the relationship. You realize you are not ready to leave and are choosing to stay, at least for now, while you work on yourself. And you feel the relationship is unsalvageable and you are ready to explore all the options and ramifications. One second here. All right, there we go. Wherever you're at, or whatever decisions you have already made or not yet made, there is no judgment. This is a time to be lovingly compassionate with yourself as you explore what is right for you. Relationships can be confusing. We spend a lot of time trying to figure out our partner. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? Why is it that they are reacting to us? The way they are reacting to us makes no sense to us, and us to them. And we can be in the same situation and yet see it very differently because people react to us depending on their personality and how they perceive you. So I'd like to take you back to when you first met your partner. What were your dreams with your partner? How many of them have come true? Is your relationship as you had pictured it would be? Or maybe with life's busyness, you aren't as close as you used to be or want to be. What happened to the dreams you had together, sharing your life? Remember in the beginning when you had so much fun together? You seemed to get along so well, and now you may fear your differences are going to break you apart. And generally it is the personality differences that do that if you don't understand each other. So where are you in your relationship right now? Has your relationship become flat and disconnected? Do you feel invaluable and invisible? Are you chronically unhappy and feel powerless to change your relationship? You love them, but you are not in love with them anymore. And you have been unhappy for a long time. Do any of these ring true for you? Maybe you like the rest of your life outside of the relationship. If only you knew how to resolve your differences. Maybe you still believe that you can find a solution and figure this out. The relationship is pretty good, but you are yearning for a closer, loving connection. Or you have one foot out the door. You believe they just don't love you, but is that really true? Over time, many of these people slowly convince themselves the benefits of leaving their marriage vastly outweighs the benefits of staying. Because see, there's a divorce trap. People who are unhappy in their marriages often speak of feeling trapped. They yearn to be free from the tension, loneliness, constant arguments, or deafening silence, but worry that divorce may not be the right decision. And it's not until they embark on the path to divorce and begin to piece their lives back together that they discover the real price for freedom. Regretfully, this painful discovery can come too late. If you have not looked at all the consequences before you make your decision, or are not feeling totally sure it is the right decision for you, then look at the options. Yet, the idea of living in a loveless marriage starts to feel like a death sentence. You may feel trapped between a rock and a hard place and trapped in a life of misery. But have you fallen into the divorce trap? Here's what women tend to do. The biased shoulder. Who are you sharing your pain with? When you share your unhappiness with loved ones, what they hear is your side of the story and your side only. Even though your feelings are about your spouse and marriage are valid, they are nonetheless biased. Protectors and rescuers. Another reason friends and family can increase the odds that you may be divorce bound is that because they can't bear to see you in pain, they will steer you to what they think is the quickest escape from the emotional pain for you. They convince themselves and then you that since your spouse is the problem, to get rid of him or her. Just leave. You don't deserve this. Just get out. And they feel that this is, if you're a good friend, this is what you do. However, if you are leaving these conversations feeling supported but solutionless, be wary. You might be in the midst of being directed into the divorce trap. Here's the challenge. Spouses don't disappear with a divorce, and neither do the problems. In a marriage, two people develop relationship patterns. And if you leave, you take your personality patterns with you that are sabotaging you when you go. Ever hear the expression, everywhere you go, there you are? And even though that it's true that that person is hard to get along with, the truth is when you experience marital problems, it's almost always the result of how two people react. If there is dysfunction, I don't want to say that just yet. When a marriage fails, no matter how tempting it might be to put the blame on one spouse's shoulders, both partners have contributed to the downfall. But let me be really clear here. If there is abuse in this relationship, physical, emotional, mental, then there is only one answer. You must get out and plan how to do that safely. There's another thing that is called the walkaway wife syndrome. In the early years of the marriage, women are usually the primary caretakers of the relationship. They are the ones who are doing the daily check-in. Have we had enough closeness today? Are we spending enough time together? Do we feel connected emotionally? If the answer to these questions is yes, then life goes on. And if not, women pursue for more closeness. I also find that the need for closeness is more personality related than male-female. For example, male supporters and expressors are emotion-based personalities and are more likely to look for a closer connection. Although divorce offers the illusion of happiness, women are the most susceptible to divorce. Approximately 2/3 of divorces in our country are filed by women. So why are so many women throwing in the towel? Well, when women feel a disconnection and a lack of closeness, they tell their husbands, "You don't value our relationship anymore," or "We never do anything together anymore. Why do you always put work ahead of me?" Often, instead of recognizing their wives' need for more closeness, men simply feel nagged and withdraw emotionally and sometimes physically. Because of this unresponsiveness, even hostility, women become frustrated. They soon try another approach, complaining about their partner's lack of involvement and about everything else in their lives. And after months or years of this negative reaction, women finally give up. They tell themselves, "Well, I've tried everything. Divorce has got to be better than this. I'll find somebody who cares about me. Even if I don't, I'm so alone in this marriage, I can't take it anymore. I know I'll be happier without them." And with that, they plan their escape. "I'm done crying, fighting, trying. I'm just done." In the months and years that follow their decision, the wife is no longer attempting to fix the marriage. She stops complaining. This surrender to the inevitable is definitely a bad thing for the relationship. And if only the partner could see this, when they see their partner, attempting to engage and to connect and to try and make it better. And then when it stops, they may think to your partner, they may think, "Well, great, maybe she's happy again." To the partner, they feel the release of the pressure, and here's what they think: "She is not nagging and complaining anymore, so she must be happy." And so they carry on with their own focus, which is maybe work or, focusing on the kids and not giving the relationship enough time, or whatever that is, until the hammer drops. That is the day she turns to him and says, "I want a divorce." To which her absolutely devastated partner may reply, "Well, I had no idea you were so unhappy. Why didn't you tell me?" And with that statement, the divorce process is set in motion. The tragedy of this situation is that this is the point at which most men finally understand the depth of their wives' unhappiness and want to make genuine changes in themselves and maybe re-engage in the relationship. They may be willing to do almost anything to keep their marriages and families together. and they may finally be ready to do the kind of soul searching that would make a great marriage possible. If more women knew the truth about divorce, they might not be so quick to dismiss their spouse's offers to become better people and partners. They might actually stick around long enough to find out if their husbands really mean what they say about changing and give them a chance. But unfortunately, by this point, most women have built a brick wall around themselves, and one that might be impossible for their partner's efforts to change. A plan may already be in place to divorce because they believe the relationship just isn't going to work. And when relationships are stressful, we don't know what's not working, why it's not working, or how to change it. And that's what keeps people stuck in the stress and disconnection. Divorce does not solve all your problems. But what are the options? Stay in a loveless marriage? You might feel trapped and feel that leaving your partner will give you freedom and independence. However, if you have children together, this partner will be in your life forever through shared custody, marriages, grandchildren, birthdays, etc. And the biggest gift you can give your children, if you are going to make the split, is to make it as amicable as possible. One of the things I'd like to share with you is that it's great to have you here with me. Thank you for being here. Let me mention that I have a Facebook group. It's called Answering Relationship Mysteries Relating to Personality Differences. And in this group, I put in there lots of interviews I've had with the different personalities, interviews on couple dynamics, two couples together and their challenges, and how some have put their relationships back together. There's lots of tips and information in this group. So I hope you'll join me in this group. It's called Answering Relationship Mysteries. Here's some statistics for you. The number one reason relationships fail is we are unaware of our negative personality patterns that are sabotaging us. We need to do a better job of managing our own partners and understanding the effect they have on others so that we can relate. And we need to understand our personality couple dynamics so that we can resolve our differences. Are you aware that 2/3 of what couples fight about are individual personality perspective differences and are irreconcilable unless you know your personality couple dynamics? How many of these statements do you relate to? Well, I'm not the problem. My partner is the problem. What they are doing makes no sense to me. Why does my partner continue doing things that hurt me? You feel you are not good enough or enough to be their partner. You walk on eggshells and are afraid to speak up. How do we communicate so that we can resolve issues, especially when we want to get our needs met at the same time? And what if this is all there is and nothing changes? And maybe some of you are saying, most of all of the above. If any of these statements sound familiar, then you are in the right place. How many of you have been having these issues that are holding you back? Does the pain of, is this all there is, leaving you feeling empty? Or does it fill you with sadness? Do you feel this way? And if so, you probably didn't sign up for a flat, confusing, frustrating relationship, right? But sometimes this is what happens. And we feel our partner just doesn't get us or understands what matters to us or why. And sometimes we don't even know why some things are so important to us, but we become upset when we feel our needs are not being met. So it also can be really difficult for your partner to understand your needs too. Do you get that? Like sometimes we don't know that. Like, man, that really makes me upset, but you don't really know why. And you can't really explain it to them properly so they understand it and it makes sense to them. And the truth is, a lot of times things need to make sense to us before we can respond. However, loving is doing what your partner needs, whether it makes sense to you or not. I know what it feels like to be an indecision. I stayed way too many years in a 35-year marriage, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my story. I met my husband when I was 16, married him at 18, and thought he would be my Prince Charming, and we would be married forever. And I thought, finally, somebody for me. Here's a picture of my high school graduation at 18, and we were married 3 months after that. That's a pretty impressive hairstyle. The hairstyle, that was called the hair stack back then. And being short, that really gave me a lot more height. I thought that we would share our hopes and dreams, that we could talk to each other about our frustrations when we felt hurt. And most of all, I thought that we would create a connected, close relationship. He would accept me for who I am, support me through my challenges, but it wasn't like that. We were married for 35 years. And in all that time, I kept thinking, we're going to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out. I was going to figure out the disconnection because I always felt this disconnection between us that was so prevalent. You see, I'd ask him, like, what's wrong? Like, why aren't you talking to me? Or why are you withdrawing? What's creating this distance between us? And he would always say, nothing. See, both of us had this pattern of not communicating, silences for long days, but clearly being upset and not telling each other what is bothering us. That left me feeling uncertain of myself, not enough, not good enough. Have any of you experienced this? There was always a lot of tension in our relationship because we were always doing this, pulling apart and coming back together, and silences, and then trying to attempt to bring the relationship back together and put it back on a more comfortable place. I couldn't figure out why there seemed to be like a glass wall between us. I could see him, but I wasn't able to engage with him, at least not in a way that I needed. And whatever I seemed to try shut him down and turned him into my silent partner. He was a complete mystery to me, and I'm pretty sure that I was to him as well. I'd often go to bed at night, reliving in my mind what had happened that would cause us to have this distance between us. Have you ever done that? Gone to bed at night and gone over the same things in your head? What did I say? How did I say it? Could have I said it differently? Why was what I said, why did that cause the reaction I got? And what is it that is causing this disconnection? How can I get him to connect with me? And I just didn't know how to do that. But I spent many, many nights. And you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again with the same information and expecting a different outcome. I just couldn't figure out what it was. And I was stressed so much of the time. And yet, you know, I would see other couples and they would seem so comfortable with each other, and they would laugh and share. And I'd look at them and I'd think, what's their secret? Why can't I figure that out? And there must be answers somewhere, because we were two great people. We had the same values, same morals, same goals. And yet we had this pattern of this disconnection. And so I searched for answers everywhere. I read stacks of self-help books. I took workshops. I read marriage manuals. And while they gave me some insights into myself, they did not give me the answers to help me to engage my husband and to create a connection. And I yearned for something more. I needed him to talk and share and let me nurture him. And I wanted to be appreciated for what I brought to the relationship. And for me, that was to be close and to talk about feelings. But throughout the marriage, I often felt not enough, not good enough, lonely, chronically unhappy, and powerless to change the situation. I became so stressed. I was crying all the time. I'd be in the grocery store. I'd be walking up and down the aisles, crying. And I can remember driving home one time that I was crying these crocodile tears so much that I could barely see to drive. And then I started to get these funky medical reports. And I knew that there was dis-ease in my body. And I knew that if I didn't do something about this situation, that very probably there was going to be disease that would result from this. And I started getting funky mammogram reports, etc. So what happens when you can't figure out a relationship out? We feel unappreciated, unloved, and that they don't get us. We don't feel accepted for who we are and what we bring to the relationship. It affects our self-esteem, our self-confidence, and our self-worth. We begin to go into resentment. We justify our own actions and become righteous about what we are doing, and we blame the other person. And when we cannot resolve it, and it gets too painful to stay, and we give up. And that is when the relationship ends. Through those years, I felt very much a victim. I felt powerless to change him. Have you ever been there? If only they would change, our relationship would be great. Boy, I thought that for many, many years. See, I could stay in misery and victimhood, blaming him that it was all his fault, or I could make some choices for myself. And life is all about choices. I could stay and be continually unhappy with the hope that things would change and we would be able to reconnect and communicate, or I could make choices to leave. At the time, I did not realize that my husband did not know what I needed in order to feel loved, because I did not know what I needed to feel loved. We were both stuck in our negative personality patterns. When you've been married for a long time, no one wants to throw in the towel. But I was ready. I kept hoping he was changed, believing that I was doing everything I could to make the relationship work. So when I came to believe that nothing would ever change, I decided to leave. And I decided to leave him for me. And that's what I said to him. I need to leave you for me. And as I left that marriage, I found the Enneagram personalities, and it gave me the answers I'd been looking for. Reading my profile was the biggest aha moment in my life. It was like reading my own biography, and I loved it because it showed me all my strengths, what people liked about me, and it showed me what my value was. And I will say that most of you probably do not know your own value, and that's what we're looking for in our relationships with everyone else. Do you value me? Do you value me? Do you value me? It also showed the gifts that I brought to my relationships. And then there were these other things over there, the things over here that I read, that when I read them, they stung when I read them. Those were the challenges that other people have with me and the patterns I have in my relationships. But you know, I knew the truth of them. I was so excited because now I knew what it was that I could work with. I could take these challenges and I could build them into strengths. And I'll tell you That is where your real power is when you have the whole picture of yourself, because we know we have these challenging things and we attempt to hide them, but these are the things that people see. So when we really manage those patterns better, we understand the challenges and we work on them so they don't sabotage us. That's when we step into the true power and accept all the parts of ourselves. Then I read my husband's profile. And in about 35 minutes, I knew more about him, myself, and our relationship than in all those years that we'd lived together. See, I knew that there were answers somewhere. I just didn't know where to find them before. After I went through my divorce and working with the Enneagram, that I realized I needed to look at my negative patterns and claim responsibility for my part. The Enneagram gave me the clarity about myself and this relationship that I had struggled in for so many years. And these patterns that ruined our relationship together to create this conscious, connected, loving relationship. I was so lit up, I'll tell you. I was so excited. Here's the answers I had been searching for. So I immediately began to take my certification to become a teacher. And as I continued to research, I found there was a lot of information on the web about the Enneagram and the profiles and the individual personalities, but there wasn't much information on how to put our personalities together in relationships, how to work with our two personalities together, what our differences brought to us, the great things they brought to us, and the challenges. So here's the first gift I'm going to give you. It is a downloadable PDF that I will be sending you. It's called 5 Steps to Create a Conscious Connected Relationship. And you're going to get that in an email. And if you stick around to the end of the webinar, there'll be other bonuses that I give to you. So now I really want to share to you what it was that I found out about our two personalities that was so specific in our personality couple dynamics. So here's what it was. I learned that I'm a 2 supporter personality, which connection is really important. Connection, sharing feelings, being appreciated. And I learned that my ex-husband is a 9 peace seeker personality. So I learned that I needed a closer connection. And so I intensely attempted to engage him, which felt controlling to him. And he withdrew to exert his independence and identity. Well, when he did that, I felt rejected with his withdrawal. And for my personality, that feels devastating, especially when my energy was so focused on him and our relationship. And I thought that's what would bring us closer together. But for him and his personality patterns, mine were too intrusive. And he did everything he could to avoid conflict, which he believed being silent would do. And that's a personality trait for him. Keeping silent, not causing any waves, not speaking up, maintaining peace and harmony. And that's the dance we did for 35 years. I would come forward intensely attempting to engage him. That was too overwhelming for him, so he would withdraw. I saw that as rejection. Can you see it? If only we would know how our patterns were affecting our partner. And you can when you learn your couple dynamics. But that's the dance we did for 35 years. So for our two personalities, because of the ability for both of these two personality types to articulate clearly, many of the challenges for the supporter-peace seeker relationship are hidden below the surface, and this adds to the confusion. Both believe they are giving up what they want for the other. They are dismayed, frustrated, and feeling unloved, with no idea what the other one needs, or how to collaborate and communicate to create a loving relationship, and what that looks like for each of you. They are stuck in unconscious response patterns developed in childhood. Only awareness of their personality patterns can resolve this to create connection. Isn't that amazing, that information? And that's just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of the information of our couple dynamics. What I researched and discovered is there's such a depth, there's so much to this to understand each other. And when I discovered this, it was like, it wasn't as personal to me. It wasn't so much me. It was just each of us defending our own personality patterns unconsciously. We weren't even conscious we were doing this. So people often ask me, well, why after finding this specific information did we still divorce? Well, I'd spent 35 years looking for these answers. And the funny thing is, actually, he too wanted me to fix myself, as he felt being a good provider was being a good husband. And many men feel this, like they feel they are a good partner if they're a good provider. But the thing is, the other part of a relationship is you need to be an emotional partner as well in order to gain that connection together. I was so excited about this information that was so specific, and yet he still didn't seem like he wanted to engage in the information and put into the work that would require us to heal all the wounds that we caused over those 35 years. And here's the other thing, people. Sometimes our partners are not as ready as we are to grab the information and to do the own internal work it requires to put the relationship back together, no matter what the consequences are. So here's the reality. If you are looking for answers, you need to be ready to do the heavy lifting in the beginning. I know it's not fair. It doesn't seem fair, but you're going to have to do the lion's share of the work here. Your partner may be skeptical at best, and you are the one who's going to have to prove to them that together, this is going to make a difference. You may not like the fact that it feels so one-sided, but for now, that's just how it is. So swallow your pride, push up your sleeves, and grab that boulder, because I've got information that's going to help you no matter what your decision. And yes, I hear that it's not fair. So reframe that. That's not fair, that he's not doing his share. When you get the results to a happy marriage and possibly a devoted partner, it's going to be worth it for leading them through the change. And research shows the fastest way to making change is to take action. So here's a little equation for you. C leads to D, leads to A equals O. So what does that mean? Choosing to make a decision, to take action, changes the outcome. When you change one thing, no matter how small, it will lead to other changes. When you shift and change some of your behaviors, it changes the old pattern. And the more positive changes you make, they begin to add up and change starts to happen much quicker. I'm going to go past this slide. Reframe your beliefs. Your partner may be willing to work on the relationship, but maybe not just your way. See, couples get into this right, wrong, and defend their stance, and maybe this is being part of the problem. Maybe you've expected your partner to see things your way and do things your way, and that doesn't feel authentic or right for them, and so they may resist. You don't initially need your partner to improve the relationship. Shift can happen when you begin to work on yourself. A new approach can engage your partner and change things drastically. And here's the thing, people. There's always one partner, and this isn't female. This is male, female, depending on personality. So there's always one that wants more closeness, more connection, more intimacy, or more space, or more time to do things that they want to do. But that doesn't mean they don't love you. Watch for resistance to come up. Hi, Yvonne. We're into the webinar, and I will be doing a replay, so not to worry, you'll be able to catch up. Thanks for joining us. So if you wouldn't mind, Yvonne, can you go to the bottom and also take off your, or just leave it as it is, it's fine. So watch for resistance to come up. Here's what I hear all the time. This is just the way I am. But this is not the way you are. This is how you are at the present time. Or here's another one. This is just the way they are. No, this is the patterns that they've learned up to this point. And another one is, this is just the way it is. But change can happen quickly. See, every person wants to feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated. No matter what kind of a hard wall they put up, they want this. And the more undervalued they feel, the higher the wall. Some personalities have more difficulty accessing their emotions and are being vulnerable. And when you learn the 9 personalities, you'll learn which ones they are. There's 3 of the personalities that are more emotion-based types. There's 3 of the personalities that are more head-thinking types. And there's 3 personalities that are more action, gut instinct. So when you have this information, you have a lot more tools to help you in your relationship. So here's some of the misconceptions. Your relationship is failing if you have conflict and anger. Wrong. Bottled negative feelings become poison, making people ill, angry, resentful, and hateful. If you keep your negative feelings to yourself, it never gives your partner an opportunity to change or correct their behavior. In good relationships, you learn to tell your partner when you are upset about something, and you learn to distinguish between important issues and choose your battles wisely. See, that with my ex-husband and I, we never fought. We didn't have arguments, and we did just that. We pushed down our feelings. We did silences, resentment. This is not a good thing. If possibly we could have shared how we were feeling, that would have given the other person an opportunity to change their behavior. But maybe we tried, and maybe we didn't know how to deal with that, and it caused disconnection and silence. So these patterns get built up. Maybe that's how those patterns started. You are more likely to divorce if there are differences in backgrounds, likes, dislikes, and interests. False. Couples that learn to deal with their differences effectively can enjoy and appreciate those differences that each other's brings. Remember that 2/3 of what couples fight about are irreconcilable, and unless they understand their personality couple dynamics, it is hard for them to resolve their differences. Major disagreements get resolved over time in healthy relationships. If you love one another, there should not be differences. Here's the thing, people. You've had different childhoods and life experiences than your partner, and generally we don't choose a partner who is our personality. You are wired completely different. The best you can do is compassionately understand and love your partner, all of them. Point number 5. Women, we are so great at this one. If they love me, they'd know what I need. Oh my goodness. Most people do not even know what their own fundamental emotional need is. And if they're unable to communicate that, how can your partner effectively understand and know how to respond to you that's going to feel loving to you? And vice versa. We usually give what we need to our partner, only that doesn't feel loving to them. Well, here's another misconception. We just fell out of love. No, that's not true either. If love dwindles, it is because the relationship is not a priority. Love is a living thing, and it needs nurturing. It is distance and alienation that causes people to think that they are falling out of love. Number 7, people are happier in second marriages. Nope. You take your negative emotional patterns with you. And unless you learn how to change those patterns, you will have those patterns in a new relationship. Love is a decision. Yep, it is a decision. You both are going to decide how much time you spend together, how much time apart, how much of your own interests you bring or need to have in the relationship, forgiving each other, holding a grudge, blaming, apologizing, accepting responsibility, being generous, or putting your own needs first. This is what decides the outcome of your relationship. I did some research and did a survey with couples, and I asked them about their personality differences. And I asked 3 questions. What is the greatest challenge? What is the greatest frustration? And the greatest fear? And so the greatest challenge was that you have personality differences. And the greatest frustration, well, these personality differences are what we fight about. And we fight because we don't know how to they cause conflict, the differences, and we don't know how to resolve them. And that's what gets frustrating, is you fight about the same thing over and over again, and they are still there. You don't know how to resolve them. And the greatest fear is that these personality differences are going to break you apart. And unfortunately, that's what happens. So whether you stay or go, you must do your own internal work. To be healthy in any relationship, you must be first healthy within yourself. In any relationship, you still need to maintain your own independence. And this is very, very important. See, we can really get lost in these relationships. And this is where we give up who we are and what we believe in for the other person. And then no one knows what they need or want. So it's really important to maintain your own independence. And until you learn your own value and core emotional needs, you will rely on others to fulfill you. And you need to know your own personality wiring in order to resolve conflicts, manage your own stress, and the patterns that are sabotaging you. To change old personality and relationship patterns and/or choosing to leave, you are going to need support. So here's a diagram of the Enneagram personality. It looks like a really complicated model, but a lot of people who learn it, it doesn't take a lot to learn it. And once you learn what it is, it becomes really easy to use. And it's easier to use than some of the other models because it has actual names you can identify with. These lines, the Enneagram is unique from all other personality models in that it has what's called a path of development. It shows you, I keep talking about the patterns that are sabotaging you. It shows you not only your gifts and strengths, but these patterns that sabotage you, and specifically what patterns to change them for. And that's what these lines are for. So for instance, I'm a 2 supporter personality. I like connection and close and talk about feelings and sharing. And when I am stressed, I go over I adopt some of the patterns of the 8 assertive personality temporarily. I can become more aggressive, more direct. I can stand up and speak up, but that doesn't feel so good. So then I go back to my 2 personality, where I like everyone to get along, to be close and connected. However, the challenge with the 2 supporter is that we put other people's needs before ourselves, and we don't always know what our own needs are. So it's very difficult for others to give us what we need. And we're not very good at receiving. We can give, but we're not very good at receiving. So the relationship's very unbalanced. What we need to do is to adapt some of the behaviors of the 4 expressors who are really in touch with themselves, in touch with their feelings, and in touch with their own authenticity. Give me a moment. So what is the Enneagram? It's a really, really weird name. Well, here's the thing. The Enneagram's been around since the 1700s, and it is a well-respected, well-known model. It's taught at universities such as the prestigious Stanford University. They're attempting to get it into the medical community. It's so well accepted. And so the word Ennea in Greek means 9, and gram means circle. And it's got lots of components to it. The personalities on either side of your personality are called the wings, and they flavor your personality. So it gives you a lot of insights to the pieces of the puzzle of who you are. So here's what the Enneagram will do. It will give you a clear picture of who am I and your value in the world. It has been changing lives since the 1700s. As I mentioned, it is a well-respected, world-renowned model. It is an ancient body of wisdom that holds the key to unlocking true understanding of the depth of our being and other people in a kind and compassionate way. It simplifies our lives by helping us to understand why we do what we do. The Enneagram is an awareness map of consciousness that illuminates 9 ways of being in the world and gives us deep insight into 9 fundamentally different personality perspectives, each with their own way of seeing the world, their own attitudes, and ways of thinking, feeling, reacting, and behaving. Learning the Enneagram will transform how you feel about yourself and how you feel about other people in all your relationships. And I've already talked about this. So, how does the personality get formed? Well, it is a survival technique that you formed as a child by about the age of 7, and it's a coping strategy. And we learned unconscious patterns, traits, and roles in order to get love the way we need. Personalities are just patterns of behavior. And when you recognize the pattern, you will understand the personality and be able to relate to the person. And this creates compassion and assists you with solving conflict and creates connection. So, you know, when there's someone who won't speak up and is really sweet and nice, you can start recognizing their patterns as peace seekers, or the people who are overly helpful, the true supporters, etc. There's lots of different, there's the 9 personalities, and when you understand them, it will connect you all together. So again, just a reminder, stick around to the end of the webinar, and I'm going to be giving you some more gifts. Your second gift that I'm going to be giving you is a description of each of the personality, the partner style, the gifts and challenges. And you're going to be getting a link to the personality quiz, which is free. And I really, really recommend that you take this quiz, because it is the beginning of understanding yourself and all other people. Truly, it simplifies relationships. Believe me, it is. I used to be so confused, and I used to be somebody for everybody. I was a people pleaser. I used to feel like my hands were attached to a clothesline and my feet were flapping in the wind, and I was somebody for everybody. I'm really strong on my foundation now. I understand myself. I understand all the parts of myself, and that gives me a strong foundation for confidence. I often don't get, when someone's reacting to me, I often understand why that is, why they've been triggered, and how to talk to them. And that helps me resolve conflicts. What else was I going to tell you? It will help you learn interactions, understand them, and learn to get along. And not just get along, it's going to create much richer relationships. Even when they are undeveloped and acting the way they are, you can understand. Say, for instance, at Christmas time, well, that's just Uncle so-and-so who's, he's acting like his personality, the undeveloped part of his personality. And it makes life a lot richer and a lot more fun. And there's a big assessment that goes with this that's going to give you a wealth of information. So on my website, eileenhead.com, under free resources, there is this link, and I will be sending this to you. So here's what learning your personality will do. It's going to tell you what people value in you, so you're not looking to, you don't look for it in other people. It's nice when you get it, but it's not something you need. That's something you can give to yourself. It's going to give you your strengths, challenges, how to resolve conflict and understand reaction patterns. It's going to help you understand what you need from your partner in a relationship, and they from you if you know their personality. It's going to give you your personality couple dynamics, and if you're single, it's going to help you understand your past partner dynamics, because this is really, really important for you to understand what happened in your past relationships, maybe some of the partners or patterns that sabotage you, and how to make yourself more compatible to selecting a new partner. What you need to be happy, and how to empower yourself to transform to become your best self. You need to understand your personality and your couple dynamics to avoid these statistics. Do you know, of all the marriages that end in divorce, 50% of them end in the first 7 years. Many people have unreasonable expectations, and they don't know what to expect in love and marriage. And then when you're dealing with different personalities, different life experiences, and what each of you needs, it can get really, really confusing. Do you know that divorces in relationships of over 30 years are on the rise? Why is that? Well, at the end of 30 years, many people now are choosing, is this all there is? And there's a lot of relationships breaking up. It's really, really sad. You spend a lot of years building a life and building the financial and families and memories. And then there is the resentment. There is is this all there is? So this is what we are working to avoid. And here's the other thing. If your parents were not in a good relationship and not good role models, you won't have a role on how to build a happy relationship. Therefore, you won't have a lot of skills and tools in order to do that. So here's a quick review. What is the cost of staying stuck in indecision where you are waiting for your partner or life to make a decision for you? Do you have one foot out the door and have just given up? We talked about getting stuck in the divorce trap. Women who share their situations with their friends may not be helpful. The walkaway wife syndrome. What do you do when your partner finally wakes up and when you've tried everything and you are done? The brick wall we talked about. We talked about divorce not solving all your problems, and the cost of staying in a loveless marriage or relationship. You need to be coached through a process. And I'm here to support you through whatever decision you decide. Your emotions may derail you from reaching your goal if you're doing this on your own. And changing lifelong patterns, beliefs can be challenging because other people affect you, other people in your relationships, and there may be judgment and guilt and opinions. So here's step number 1. I offer a free relationship clarity call. And you can book that now. That's on my website, eileenhead.com, under free resources. But here's the great thing. This call is available to you and your friends anytime. So share that link with them. Anybody who's having a challenging relationship, tell them to hop on a call with me. I'll give you some insights of what's happening, what's going on. It's a free call. And there is a booking link on that, but if some of you want to hop on a call with me tomorrow, send me an email, because the booking link is 24 hours in advance. So send me an email, eileen@eileenhead.com, and I've booked some time in my schedule tomorrow that's free, and we can get into really quickly what's going on, what's happening. You are at a crossroads and you have choices. I have a process where at the end of 90 days, you will have clarity and feel confident in making one of 3 decisions. Because here's the thing, what if there was a way to rejuvenate your relationship, or get clarity on whether it's time to stop pushing that boulder up the mountain and to leave? What is the Stay or Go coaching program? In this program, I'm going to work with you to do everything we can to re-engage your partner, to reconnect and rejuvenate the relationship. So maybe your decision is you are excited about the reconnection with your partner and what the future brings together. And once engaged, your partner is welcome to join the program if you choose. You will get very specific information on your personality, differences, similarities, couple dynamics, as well as relationship tools. And I've had people in my program who have just learned the couple dynamics. Both of them got engaged in it. Boom, it shifted everything. Or they learned about the program themselves without their partner engaging, and that shifted the program. Number 2, you're not ready to leave, but you are choosing to stay, at least for now. And you're going to work on yourself and what you need. You understand that doing your own inner work of learning your fundamental core emotional needs is fundamental. Whether you go or whether you stay, this is such a critical part. It's part of your healing, figuring out what happened, why, what are the dynamics, and most importantly, what was your part? Because you played a part in that role. When I realized that my patterns were intrusive and how they affected my ex-husband, I was shocked. You bet I played a role in that. And that's what helped me heal and to forgive and to let go and release outcome. And it's changed my life going forward. I'm not pulling that old baggage with me going forward into new relationships and into how I feel about my life and myself in life as a whole. Or number 3, you feel the relationship is unsalvageable. You feel clear about your decision to leave, and you're ready to explore all the options and ramifications. So, choosing to make a decision, it doesn't matter which decision, is very powerful. And here's why. It is a step forward in taking responsibility to create the life you desire. It changes your vibration, attitude, and it moves you into action, which creates the change and shifts everything. So whatever your decision to stay or to go, I will be there to support you. You're going to learn new skills of speaking up, being independent, and a healthier person in your relationships. You're going to do your own inner work of transforming to become your best self and creating happiness for yourself, and clearly knowing what you need to feel loved. You're going to learn to manage your expectations. It may take longer than you expect. Look, it probably took years for your marriage to reach this point, so repairing the damage will take some time. If you're an impatient person by nature, when you want something, you want it now, you're going to have to work on this to slow it down. And I can offer you some tips on how to keep calm when things are at a standstill or when things are being challenging. But in any case, patience is more than a virtue, it's a necessity. And no matter the outcome, this journey of self-discovery will be so worth it for you, no matter what that outcome. And there are no guarantees. Sometimes It may not save your marriage. But I will tell you, unless you follow the steps, there is no hope that you, well, I shouldn't say that. Unless you follow the steps and learn about yourself and your couple dynamics, to get the loving, connected relationships you're yearning for is probably not going to come about. Here's the thing, you showed up because you were looking for answers. And I want you to think about this point. If nothing changes in your life, and you look at your life, what will it look like in 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? What will it look like? What will you be feeling? What will be going on in your life? Will you be healthy? This is not a huge investment of time or money for a huge return. Understanding yourself and your partner. Remember, this is a 90-day program, or I set up a program of, I customize programs for you with the number of sessions that you want. And I have many, many resources that I can bring to you. You can have that deep connected relationship at a deep level. This can be you. It can be both of you. And what would it feel like to have that sense of trust and security, knowing your partner really loves you, really gets you, really appreciates you, supports you even when you're challenging, helps you to grow without enabling? What would that be like? See, happiness is always an inside job. So I want to say a big thank you for being on this webinar or watching this webinar in the replay and allowing me to share my passion for helping people and their relationships. I really wish that I'd had this information when I was going through my struggle of 35 years. We had a lot going for us. But it was our differences that just broke us apart, and the lack of understanding for what each of us needed. So I will be sending you some emails and links and resources. And I'm going to stop sharing the webinar now. If you'd like to stay on, I will answer questions. And thank you again. Please visit my website, eileenhead.com. Join me I've got lots of resources on there. I've got a Get Love the Way You Need online relationship program and a singles program. So there's lots for us to share and talk about, and be sure to hop on that free relationship clarity call, and let's get life moving for you.